One thing that really surprises me is the inability for people to realize how well connected Ripple is to almost everything. And by everything, I also mean the US government. 2025 obviously was one of the biggest years for crypto to go mainstream and also be addressed from the US government, right? Like the actual Trump admin has been going all in on crypto essentially all throughout 2025. And this has been extremely bullish for those that have been studying and really looking into projects like XRP and also, really connecting the dots between Ripple and so many larger organizations and, big institutional players as well. Because again, all of that information, all of that study, and all of those connections, it really kind of leads us to the major realization that Ripple is not just your typical blockchain-based company. XRP is not just your typical cryptocurrency. These two are vital players in the evolution of our entire financial system. I want to start this video off by just going back to a recent announcement, which was the fact that, yes, the White House is attending Ripple Swell. Big shout out to Bank XRP for this. We have big addition to the Ripple Swell 2025 stage. Patrick J. Witt from the White House Digital Assets Council joins the keynote lineup. Yes, this is very big. Now, what's interesting about this isn't so much the fact that, oh, hey, we have, someone from the President's Council of Advisors for Digital Assets joining Ripple Swell. So, hey, it's just a big name getting added to Ripple Swell, right? No, it's actually much bigger than this because this is just one of many significant connections back to the US government. Like, for an example, going back to July, where we did see an announcement from Brad Garlinghouse. Obviously, Ripple wasn't able to make this one in person, but this was Team Ripple at the White House celebrating a historic day for crypto. And this is with the signing ceremony of the Genius Act. Obviously, Stuart Alderati was there. They were at the White House for this, which was also very interesting to see. Now, this was not just the only connection that we saw. We also got another big announcement back in November. Big shout out to Good Morning Crypto for this. We have Justin, Donald Trump, and Ripple CEO meeting confirmed on Fox Business. XRP is one of the best performance off the news that Brad Garlinghouse met with President Donald Trump. What do you believe Ripple CEO discussed with Donald Trump during their White House meeting? And yes, Brad Garlinghouse did meet with Trump, and this was back in November. Now is the best time to lock in with ITrustCapital, where you could tap into their Roth IRA crypto-designed platform or even their premium custody account that allows you to hold crypto safely and soundly. You never have to worry about if your crypto is going to disappear overnight, because this is a closed loop system. Assets are held one-to-one off balance sheet, US-based live client service, institutional custody, tax reporting, and 24/7, 365 buying and selling. I personally love the Roth IRA side of their platform. It's incredible, especially for tax-advantaged trading as well as holding crypto. If you guys do want to tap into this, you guys are more than welcome to, utilizing my link down in the description below and my promo code as well, where you deposit $1,000 and they give you an additional $100 funding bonus. What are you guys waiting for? Sign up today. You won't regret it. Now, after this meeting, right around the same exact time, we did get this. Trump to form crypto advisory council with industry participants and locate it inside the White House. We have XRP drop saying Ripple already met Trump in, San Francisco this summer, which, by the way, he did. Brad Garlinghouse met with Trump back in the summer of 2024, and then they also met in November as well. We know that they met in November because we have pictures of them meeting back in November, which is this one right here. And yes, Stuart Alderati was also there alongside Brad Garlinghouse. Now, to make things even more interesting, we just got another big update, which was just in. The list of private donors for President Trump's White House ballroom has been released. Major progress is being made with demolition at the East Wing. The donor list includes Amazon, Coinbase, Comcast, Hard Rock, Google, Microsoft, the Letnick family, and others. Who are those others, you may ask? Well, Ripple is one of them. Very interesting to see Ripple being a major player on this list. Obviously, yes, there's a lot of other crypto-based names on here, like, for example, Coinbase and even the Winklevoss twins. But it's crazy to see this. It's crazy to see Ripple on this list after everything that we witnessed so far over the last couple months. And then we also got this announcement with Patrick Whitt being at Ripple Swell. Okay, but you might be saying, well, Nick, you're still grasping at straws here. There's really nothing significant about any of this. Well, let's go back all the way to April of 2024, where Subjective Views posted this. This was Ripple Stellar and the U.S. Department of the Treasury. They were at a roundtable discussion alongside Nellie Liang, Undersecretary for Domestic Finance, U.S. Department of the Treasury. This was back on April 23rd, 2024, discussion on the technical and regulatory requirements for upgrading the legacy capabilities of central bank money. Exploring the potential implications for consumers, investors, and businesses, they also delved into the long-term vision for the integration of CBDCs, tokenization, and stablecoins into the broader U.S. financial ecosystem, including potential benefits for economic growth and resilience. And what's interesting about this is we did get a post from the OMFIF regarding this event. And look at the breakdown of this. So while U.S. policymakers are evaluating whether a central bank digital currency is the national is in the national interest, the private sector is steaming ahead with various forms of tokenized cash, and financial market participants are working hard to tokenize a range of assets. Regulators must come to a thorough understanding of the new rails. Oh, you gotta love the wording here. The new rails on which value is being exchanged, so that they can continue to provide effective oversight and minimize risk without stifling innovation. Against this backdrop, the OMFIF's Digital Monetary Institute was honored to be joined by Nellie Liang, Undersecretary for Domestic Finance at the U.S. Treasury, for an in-person roundtable in Washington, D.C. on alternative payment platforms in the U.S. During the roundtable, participants focused on two main areas: fast payment systems and tokenization. The session discussed the technical and regulatory requirements for upgrading the legacy capabilities of central bank money and explored the potential implications for consumers, investors, and businesses. The conversation also delved into the long-term vision for the integration of CBDCs, tokenization, and stablecoins into the broader U.S. financial ecosystem, including potential benefits for economic growth and resilience. This was back in 2024. They were already preparing for this massive integration back in 2024, and Ripple was there. Lauren Beliv, the head of public policy and government at Ripple, was there. And then we got a big update from Scott Bessent back in June. He went and talked about how with the Genius Act, crypto is not a threat to the dollar. In fact, stablecoins can reinforce dollar supremacy. Digital assets are one of the most important phenomena in the world right now, yet they have been ignored by national governments for far too long. This administration is committed to establishing the United States as a hub for digital asset innovation, and the Genius Act moves us one step closer to that goal. This is the number one thing to focus on from this. Stablecoins can reinforce dollar supremacy. Let's go back here to the OMFIF's announcement in 2024, where they wanted to integrate stablecoins into the broader US financial ecosystem. This has been pre-planned, and Ripple has been a part of it since day one. That's why all of these connections back to the US government are so crucial to focus on. And then if you think about it on a much bigger picture, right? We go back to some of the recent announcements from Ripple, like the Ripple Prime announcement, them completing their Hidden Road acquisition. This is very important because this ties in ROUSD and XRP into a much larger market. It allows them to expand rapidly, become even more liquid, so that they can be integrated into the system at scale. Monica Long said the opportunities now available to Ripple Prime, aka Hidden Road, are expansive, with ROUSD already being used as collateral for a number of prime brokerage products, and Ripple Prime looking at a variety of ways to utilize XRP. The future ahead is mighty bright. And yes, because it's all about XRP. It's all about XRP and also ROUSD. We know this is true because of what Brad Garlinghouse also said. If we go back to Ripple's post here real quick, I believe that they did share, or let me just go to Brad Garlinghouse's profile because I do know that he recently posted it. I'm reminding you that XRP sits at the center of everything Ripple does. So if we're thinking about this, right, if ROUSD is going to be integrated into the US system, which I believe it will because of these connections that we are seeing between Ripple and the US government, and now how big stablecoins are becoming, and then we think about how big ROUSD has become as well. I mean, guys, looking at the value, we just crossed over $900 million. We got to remember that this is just a fresh launch as well. Up almost 2% in the last 30 days in terms of total value. Monthly transfer volume over $6.4+ billion, up almost 60% in the last 30 days. We are watching as ROUSD quickly becomes a massive player in the stablecoin boom. Stablecoins obviously becoming a huge piece of the global money supply and also global money transfers, but ROUSD is starting to move up the list as well in terms of one of the largest stablecoins out there. Stablecoins are only going to continue to grow from here on out, and the fact that ROUSD is seeing the amount of growth that it is right now, and we just witnessed this acquisition complete, this is going to accelerate the amount of ROUSD in terms of value as well, but also monthly transfer volume. ROUSD is going to get ignited from this announcement. And then we think about the XRP ledger, because XRP and the XRPL are at the forefront of everything that Ripple is doing, including, of course, the stablecoin ROUSD. If we go back to the XRP ledger, we have over here $365 million in terms of RWA value. The stablecoin market cap, over $307 million. Look at the 30-day transfer volume here. RWAs just surpassed over $607 million, and stablecoins over $433 million. We are watching as the transfer volume significantly rises on the XRP ledger, and stablecoins are starting to become a huge hit on all of these networks. This is at a time where the US government is ready to go all in on stablecoins and support them in a much larger way. But not just any stablecoins. Stablecoins that are extremely compliant, stablecoins that are extremely transparent. That's the number one reason why when we go back to USDT, although yes, Tether is the number one stablecoin here, we need to understand that USDT is not going to be the big player. We know this is true because Tether needed to launch a new stablecoin for the US market. That's where we see the separation between Tether and ROUSD. ROUSD is on a completely different level here. This is also proving that Ripple is becoming a much bigger piece of this big revolution happening around the US system. Just as we've always, mentioned, I do think that Ripple is a completely different, I think that the big thing to really focus on here is everyone thinks of Ripple as just a blockchain-based company, at least outside of the XRP community. In the XRP community, we know how big Ripple is. We know how well connected Ripple is. Bitcoin maxis have always called XRP the banker's coin, and they wrote off Ripple as just that typical, crypto scam. Oh, they're, here working with the institutional players, so, they're not a real crypto company. All of that today is exactly the reason why Ripple and XRP will be integrated into the US system. I think that that's so important to think about at a time where we are witnessing these major connections. We are seeing, Ripple meeting with Trump and the Trump admin, and we're seeing major players like Patrick Witt come over to Ripple Swell, which, by the way, is a banking conference hosted by a blockchain company, which is crazy to me. Again, I think people need to realize that Ripple isn't just your typical blockchain company. XRP isn't just your typical cryptocurrency. This is much bigger than we think. And I strongly believe that the US will adopt ROUSD and it will adopt XRP. So with that being said, I hope that you guys enjoyed this video. If you guys did, definitely like, subscribe, turn notifications on because I'm more free content. You guys are more than welcome to follow me on Twitter and join the free Discord in the description below. And with that being said, guys, thanks for watching. Peace out.